When you give your hard-earned money to offering at annual conference and you hear that it's going to support the ministries of annual conference, do you ever wonder what that means? Well, it means more than just keeping the lights on and paying office expenses. The ministries of annual conference are so varied. They are as diverse as childcare for our little ones and Bible study materials. Annual conference exists to unite, strengthen, and equip the Church of the Brethren. And that's what we do at annual conference. And that's what we've been doing this year in Tampa. Annual conference provides opportunities for fellowship, for laughter, tears and hugs, for learning and teaching, Bible study, games, worship, joy, and conversation. All that we hear and do at annual conference is supposed to be carried home to our congregations. What kinds of things have you experienced at annual conference that have been important to you and your families?
I'm always impressed by how our kids come back and they gather around the same friends. And so it's an opportunity for them to see people that they don't see throughout the year and make the connections over the different generations. I think that's great. For me personally, I recognize annual conference as the only place in the Church of the Brethren where everyone is invited to the table. It's not about an older generation or a younger generation or varying theologies. It's the only place where all of us come together. And that's important as we not just do business of the church, but build the relationships that are crucial for how we're going to be church together in the future.
I would echo what Sean said about his children's experience. For my children, in many ways, the friends that they've made in the wider denomination, those are their faith peers, because we live in kind of an isolated part of the country and go to a small congregation. And they look forward to coming to annual conference. I always appreciate worship at annual conference because it's an opportunity to hear diverse voices from the pulpit, and often it's an opportunity to hear kind of big name preachers that we might otherwise not have an opportunity to hear. People like Roger Nishioka, who spoke so powerfully at annual conference on Sunday morning, or to experience people like Ted and Ken and their powerful message and the way they collaborate in magical ways and spirit-filled ways and to challenge and inspire us as the Church of the Brethren.
And that is only made possible through the offerings and the registration fees, and through the many ways that we share our gifts of money, time, and talent with annual conference. And the thing is that what happens at annual conference isn't supposed to stay at annual conference. We are hoping that the delegates, the pastors, the church members will take home the things that they've experienced here and share them with their congregations, whether it's an idea that they learned at an insight session or an equipping workshop where they have something tangible they can take home. Maybe someone was moved by one of the preachers or music, a song they've never heard before, and they want to go home and teach that to their congregation. So what happens at annual conference doesn't stay here, or it doesn't do the church any good. What are some things that have enhanced your congregation or your life in the church that you picked up at annual conference?
I think a lot of people have appreciated the new way of doing business around tables, not just because we're around tables, but because it demonstrates a different way of being together to do business and to make decisions. The other thing I think of is I happened to just drop in at the end of Roger Nishioka's insight session on the evening when we were doing a lot of equipping kinds of insight sessions, and was really just impressed with the kind of information he was providing. It was really hands-on. People were getting out their smartphones and looking that stuff up right away, and that way they were able to take some of the stuff that they were learning with them back, and it was practical and useful and helpful. And we hope that we're continuing, but also building on a tradition of being an equipping place. I hope to do more of that in the future at annual conference, but for now, really just what can people take back with them, equipping them and their congregations for renewed ministry back home.
I almost always go home from annual conference with a new song, something that's been introduced in worship at annual conference and something that I can take home and share with our congregation. I also appreciate the fact that annual conference provides local pastors and people in the pew opportunities to engage in conversations with denominational staff, to learn about programs and to discover new resources that they can take home with them to strengthen their ministry.
So if what happens at annual conference doesn't stay at annual conference, does that make us the anti-Vegas?
Yes, it does. For the last year, at least in my congregation, we have been praying for and raising money for the Nigerian church. And I still have goosebumps just thinking about what Samuel and Rebecca had to say, and to see the women sing. I just think that has been the highlight of annual conference, that this is something that we have been so concerned about. And where else could brethren gather together and hear the words of our brothers and sisters from Nigeria? Unless you could go to one of the concerts. This is the place to be, and to have the women here who've been through so much and suffered through so much to share their joy. Oh boy, that's itself is worth the price of admission.
I hope it not only will, from that experience, that not only will people go home inspired and challenged to give more to the Nigeria Crisis Fund and to share more about the situation in Nigeria, but that they'll go home with their own faith inspired, because especially the Nigerian Women's Choir has just embodied hope and strength and courage and resilience that I've found inspiring in terms of my own faith.
None of this is possible without your money, but not just your money, your time, your commitment, your faith. That is what makes annual conference such an important experience in the life of the church.